So I have quite possibly just taken the biggest risk of my short bike building life, but I'm pretty sure it's already about to pay off. So I'm tired, we've been on the road for a long time, 1,200 kilometers there and back to pick up this beast. It came up a few days ago at auction. I wasn't sure if I'd get it, but I managed to get it for a pretty good price. And that leaves me with a question, is it salvage? Do I part it out or do I build it? And by the end of the video you will know more, but let's jump into it and actually take a look at what we bought. See what's good, see what's bad. Let's jump into it. Okay, so it is a V4S. So we get obviously the Öhlins package. There's a couple of things with the front here that I'm not sure if these have just come off or if they're still working. Have a look at the forks in a sec. It's also got the Öhlins TTX rear shock, so we'll have a look at that. But the best thing about this whole bike that I wasn't fully sure of when we got it, or even when I was bidding, was this. So check this out. It's got an acro system on it. Pop around here and have a look from the side. Look at the color on those pipes. That is awesome. And I can't actually tell if, oh, my light's gone out. I can't actually tell if the entire pipe is acro because it looks like the headers have also got a fair bit of color the whole way up. And normal steel headers wouldn't get that color in it. So if anyone knows the old owner, it would be great to know before I take this thing apart to see if the full system is a full acro system or not. There's probably another way I can find out anyway, just by looking a bit more data up online. But there's a few things, there were awesome bonuses that came with this bike. And quite often when you buy a bike from auction, you don't get a key. This bike came with a key and an ignition. And to top it off, it came with a screen. So the screen's got a couple of cracks. So it's got a little crack in the edge just there, which is, oh, it's pretty minimal. It's sort of out away from the main part of the screen. And this stuff here is just really like surface. It's not even a crack, it's just like a little scratch. So I think that will actually clean up quite well. And fingers crossed this screen works, because I really do not want to have to buy a screen for a Ducati Panigale. That's just gonna cost me a lot of money, so let's just hope that's not the case. Obviously the front stay is completely smashed and broken, and that will need to be replaced. The rear sets, Arashi, I've never heard of them, but they're completely destroyed. I do have a set of OEM rear sets of that bike there. That one just there. I do have a set of OEM rear sets left from that bike there, so I might just use those in the meantime and put them on this. But one of the biggest concerns I had is in the image at the auction website, it showed heaps and heaps of what I thought was oil under the bike. And I was really worried that the entire sump of the bike was cracked because I couldn't tell from the photos. They were so grainy and dodgy, the photos. I thought that this entire sump was cracked. It's not. It's not cracked. And I had actually factored in $1,000 to fix that sump. So there's $1,000 we've just saved, or I can use elsewhere. But it does have a leak. So let's find that leak, because I think it's probably a radiator leak. So I did just find this very, very small hole in the radiator just here. Now, I do have to get a little bit of aluminium welding done from a friend of mine next week. So with any luck, I should just be able to take this radiator off, take it with me, get it welded, provided there's no other issues with it. and fingers crossed that solves that problem. I don't think the bottom radiator's leaking at all down here, so I think that's okay. But I think what's happening is all of this fluid is trickling out, and my trailer that I transported this bike on is actually covered in fluid, and it's coming just there. See, my finger's wet there, so it's obviously coming out of the radiator. The entire radiator shroud, so this piece here needs to be replaced. So this is the plastic piece which holds both the radiators in place. But the bonus is, pass me the camera for a second and I'll show you. I don't know if you can see that, but it's got RNG radiator guards, so top and bottom, and they look completely straight. So that is a bonus. Another little bonus is there's not too much damage on the calipers. Like you can see this bike's taking a big slide the whole way along this left side, but at the same point, it's quite cosmetic. It's got some scratches on the forks. Yeah, that's not great. The fork seal in this side's broken and you can actually see the spring. Look at that, but that's okay because we'll get the forks rebuilt anyway. Some minor damage around the reservoirs here. Just scrapes all along. I can see I'm missing this cover on the other side, so that's like super cheap to buy one of them. Luckily, the alt cover is not broken because I don't know if you remember on my other V4 build when I crashed that, first thing to go was the alt cover. That's about $1,000, so thank God for that. But the swing arm probably took most of the actual scrape. Now, I can see at one point it had some form of something over the top of this, maybe a cover. I can see the way the bike is scraped across the ground here, it's left quite a bit of gouge in that. But I don't think it was an impact. And from what I've heard, I'll hand the camera back for a sec. From what I've heard from the wrecking company is that the guy that crashed it low-sided it, and the bike just slid off the road into the grass and through some trees, and he was completely fine. So awesome, great news. We never want to hear anyone gets hurt. So I think we should just be able to clean this all up. I'll get it tested to see if it's straight because I doubt it's bent. And then we'll just put a nice carbon cover over the top of that, the same what we did with the other V4 that we've just almost finished. And then the only other real disappointing piece I saw on this bike was the tank. The photos on the auction site were from the other side, so what I couldn't see was this here, and it's got a pretty small dent right in the tank, so check that out. It's not too bad, like I can put my finger in it, but I think once we put a tank cover over this, you won't see it. And it might be a carbon tank cover, it might just be a regular plastic tank cover. I don't know yet. It looks as though the rear frame is actually straight. That's just me looking at it. It looks pretty straight. The bolt holes line up with the center bolt hole. Tires are pretty shot. The two Marcassini wheels are perfect, no damage whatsoever. So, like I said, I keep a spreadsheet of both of these things, build versus salvage, and they're pretty on par with each other once you start factoring in all of these parts that could be sold if we chose to go down that route, but again, you'll find out at the end of the video. It's also got the Öhlins TTX, the shock, so again, one of the highest spec shocks you can get, and once we get this performance tuned, you know, there's not much else there. You know, maybe YSS, the sorts of thing that we put on this bike. Check this one out over here. This one's got the YSS fully hydraulic shock. So whether or not we switch out the Öhlins for one of these, I'll have to have a chat to my sponsors and see what we want to do with that. So yeah, some other things which we're gonna have to do straight away is try and figure out if the bike actually runs, and it's got no power at the moment. I'm not gonna try and turn it over and just ruin the bike. On the next episode, what we're gonna do is basically give the bike a service and try and get it started. So we're gonna take the oil out, check the oil for any metal, put a new filter in place, charge the battery because it's probably been sitting in the salvage yard for a few months. And we'll probably put some clip-ons on it. So pop around here and take a look. So you can see the clip-ons are broken off both sides. Clip-ons themselves are actually relatively cheap and they just bolt straight in. So fingers crossed we'll be able to move the bike around. It's so hard to move it around without having bars on it. It's ridiculous. So we'll have to do that and try and get the bike started. We need the switch gear for the right hand side. Luckily, I still have that in the box from my other V4. So the good part about this build, there you go, you got me. You know we're gonna build it, is I've actually got a lot of spare parts, a lot of Ducati parts. And my friends have all said this, why would I buy something else that's not a Ducati when I've got so many Ducati spare parts that should actually save us money in the long run. So from bolts, from bars, from switch gear to heaps of stuff. So fingers crossed, this build, even though it looks pretty epic, won't take as long as you'd expect. So we're thinking hopefully just a few episodes, and again, it'll probably depend on how quick we can get things from Italy, how quick we can get things from our suppliers and our sponsors, and then we also need to land on a design. So that brings me back to our final question, design. So I've got a couple of ideas. We've also got all the leftover designs from car design from the previous V4 that we just built. But drop a comment below. Let me know what you think would be a really cool layup on this bike. I would like to have my branding on it, so oneL. Yeah, let me know. Do you think it should be hot pink, hot blue, whatever? No suggestion is stupid. As long as you don't say it needs a big penis on the side, I'm cool with that. Yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching and stay tuned. This is going to be another epic build. And I think about the 4th or 5th build for this year, for this channel. So, thanks.